Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for July 29th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 27 live feeds. It was day 21 in the house, and we had quite a decision for a renomination, and we had some fallout from that decision. And with me to talk through it all is Andy. How you doing, Andy?
How's it going, Taran? Super happy to be here. Not everyone knows this, but I can't even think about how many hundreds of these that I've listened to over the years. So this is one of these full circle moments for me. Super happy to be here to talk about a really fun week of a season that I think is pretty fun and I think has potential to get really interesting.
Yes. Well, there's plenty to talk about here. Of course, yesterday we were here on the update talking about how Lauren had been going all around in circles, and I was saying I really feel like she's just going to land back where she started, but that is where we are going to start our morning, where Lauren had been sleeping on the decision. Of course, Lauren, the HOH, nominated Keanu, Kelly, and Will. Keanu won the veto. She had to decide who to replace Keanu with. She was back and forth between Ashley and Adrian. And the last time she had talked with, Vince and Zach, two of her closer allies, she had been pretty adamant about Ashley for the most part, despite Vince often then talking her in circles. But the night before day 21, she did tell Zach, I'm still not sure. He said you should sleep on it. So she did. She woke up in the morning and she had to have more conversations. And really the whole time I was thinking like, all right, when are Zach and Vince gonna get in there and talk to her and like really lock down this Ashley nomination? And didn't really happen. The morning kind of ticked away. Kelly had a conversation with Rachel where she was like, I don't want to talk to Rachel. She's trying to get me to turn on my allies. Not today. Nice try, Rachel. And the first person to talk to Lauren was Ashley. Because she gets in there. Of course you should be the first person to talk to her in the morning when you know that she's wavering. Get in there.
Apparently she ran up there. She was out of breath when the conversation started, which I think was probably worked in her favor. But because, I mean, Ashley's one of these cast members this season, which I really enjoy her because I feel like she almost can't help herself. She's got such a strong personality. And I think this conversation was super funny because she was pushing her case, but she wasn't really picking up what Lauren was putting down. And I think to her advantage, she kind of caught Lauren first thing in the morning. Lauren's brain wasn't even working properly. So this is a funny conversation.
Yeah, she got in there early, and Lauren was still. If I'm bringing back the toaster analogy, it was like Ashley got up there and was like, "Listen, my sale is about to end, but I'll give you an extra coupon." Right now, if you put me in your cart, and Lauren was like, I guess that is a little bit more.
Pop up that she clicked.
Yeah, she really was. The pop up just went up, and so, she just kept working on it. Lauren was like, I'm not sure, but I mean, would you be willing to promise me that you wouldn't put me up before jury? And Ashley's like, of course. Yes. Like, I want to work with you. And Lauren's like, I want to work with you too. And, just again, getting in there early. It had been like almost 24 hours since Lauren had meaningfully talked to Vince about this nomination. And here Ashley is. This is like her third or fourth conversation with Lauren, continuing to push, continuing to make these offers, backed up by everyone else that she's aligned with, that is talking with Lauren. Morgan comes up right after this conversation, continues to push this sort of line of reasoning, and Lauren essentially gave the impression to Ashley, didn't say it, but gave the impression like, yeah, you're offering me that deal. Like Ashley feels pretty good coming out of that talk.
It's funny because I don't think Lauren actually said the words that Ashley's not going up, but it was clear that that was Ashley's impression. And I think that really helped Ashley because I think Lauren felt like if she were to put up Ashley, it would be a blindside in a way that it doesn't not apply to Adrian. So I think that's like a theme where some people are doing things that are a little bit subpar and it kind of works out for them.
Yeah, that is part of it, I think, because Ashley, we talked about like her very long conversation with Lauren the day before. She's just like not taking the hints to leave. And I think that there maybe is something to this, that like the way that Ashley talked to Lauren every time was with a completely like naive optimism, and she it was an affect. Like this was not on purpose, or sorry, this was on purpose. But she would talk to Lauren and be like, I think that it's best for your game. You know that it's best for your game to not put me on the block. I know you know that, and I know you don't want to. And like this idea of like, so obviously that's not happening. Whereas, somebody like Adrian went up and more realistically was like, I can tell you're thinking about putting me on the block. And I do think that level of delusion to some degree, a feigned delusion perhaps, helped because Lauren was like, Ashley really like doesn't think I would do this to her, and doesn't think I'm going to. Whereas Adrian has already kind of at least accepted the idea, even if he's fighting against it. With somebody like Lauren as the HOH, like that tiny bit makes a difference.
Is that a lawyer technique that I'm not aware of? Like she just acts like she's already won the case. And I think that's actually
maybe.
Yeah.
Jury, I know you know that my client is innocent.
Now I want to see her final 2 speech doing that strategy.
So as I said, Morgan got in there, and then Keanu goes in there. And at this point, I really do think that Lauren fully is still could go either way. She definitely was pushed in this direction by Ashley first thing in the morning. But Keanu goes in there and he's bringing up his plan again. Like, so here's, I'm going to go up there. I'm going to say like, hey, this was my decision and I'll take all the heat for you. Don't worry. And Lauren is like, I don't really think that's what I want to do. He's like, why not? I thought you were like looking, because again, like the thing that keeps happening too is that Lauren will have conversations with people, primarily like Vince, and she'll say things like, oh, well, maybe I'll get Keanu to take the heat for me because people will think that Keanu will like sort of like Keanu will feel like he made this decision. I'll pretend like he did, right? And then Vince will go talk to Keanu about it, and then Keanu will come up to Lauren and be like, so I've heard that you're looking to put the heat on me for this decision. I'm totally cool with that. I want to do that too. And Lauren's like, what? And so he goes up there and he's like, yeah, I'm ready to do this. And Lauren's like, yeah, I don't really think I want to. And he's like, what? Why? She's like, I just, I don't think it's a good idea. I think that it's maybe just like a little too much or something. And Keanu's like, listen, we can take it back a little bit. We can take a step back. There are other ways we can do this, but obviously, like, we got to do this. We got to put Ashley on the block. She's like, yeah, I'm still just not sure. And he's like, listen, Lauren, do you play sports? Like, I don't know, maybe. He's like, well, hey, listen, hello, have you ever been on a team? He goes, no. It's like, well, listen, Lauren, the thing about being on a team is that, you gotta be a team player. You're all contributing toward one goal. You gotta work together. And if we are on a team, then we can succeed. And Lauren's like, okay.
Can I just say how much I appreciate Keanu, and I have this whole season? I mean, he is by far the least popular house guest in this house among the house guests. And we saw all day today, as I'm sure we do every day, these feeds, people just can't stop crap talking him whenever he's, not in the room. But I think when it comes to like villains or what have you, like, I think he means well in this conversation. I think he rarely has a malicious bone in his body. It's just almost, he's like a sitcom character in the way, and the way he comes on so strongly. But this was a classic example of like an awkward Keanu conversation.
I mean, I said it before, I'll say it again. What Keanu is saying makes sense. The way he's saying it, not optimal. But to be fair, at least a little bit to him, I don't think Lauren is ready to hear what he's saying from him. And that's because of his own actions previous to this and the way that he talked before and the way that he will continue to talk throughout the day. But he is making sense. I mean, there is definitely a world where like she can make this move. She can let him take most of the heat for it. The house will divide into the two sides. The other side will likely fall apart because they aren't cohesive enough and they won't have the power, and so on and so forth. But in Lauren's mind, she's like, get this guy away from me.
Yeah. But as we see like later in the day, no matter what Keanu does and no matter what Lauren does, I feel like Keanu can't help but take the blame for things. And so this is another case where inadvertently this does kind of work in the sense that when we get to what happens later in the day, like Keanu is taking a lot of heat for what went down today.
Yep. So after Keanu, Adrian comes in as well, and he makes his impassioned plea. At one point, he's like, I'm literally like begging you, like, please don't do this. I'm here for my family. And he tries to make a similar pitch to as the one that Keanu did. You will have so many people backing you. We will be part of a team. And I mentioned this on the roundtable last night, but one of the things I didn't like about his pitch was he was saying, and we are like the good people. Like, we are not the liars. They're the liars. And I hate liars and they're liars. Did you know that even like Mickey and Morgan are like a little bit split apart? Like their whole side is not even very cohesive. And they're already talking crap about each other. So like, are those the people you'd want to be appeasing with this? Like, they're liars, and I said it before, but it's just like, that's not a good argument, Adrian. That's actually an argument to not do what you're trying to propose, because that means that she doesn't need to declare war because that side is not cohesive enough, that she can get in there.
I think he got too used to being on the sort of moral high horse part of his argument, because I had to double take when I heard that, because like incentive wise, he was telling Lauren that this big alliance is about to crumble. And so that just makes Lauren want to do the different decision than what Adrian is pitching. So he had a lot of good arguments though, besides that one. I think that's where
he did. It's just like, what you want to be saying in that moment is like, they're so tight. They've been voting with each other every single week. They're in lockstep. Clearly, as you've seen, they're all coming up to your HOH room and saying the same things, trying so hard to keep Ashley off the block. They are never going to split up. They are locked in as their final 8, whatever it is. We are never getting in there. If we don't take a shot now, when will we ever be able to? But that wasn't the argument. But he did make some other good ones, as you mentioned. Many of them being like, I'm never coming after you. I know that you're scared to take those like bigger shots. Like, I know you don't want to do that. I'm here to take those shots. Keep me in this game. If you lose me in this game, who is going to take that shot? If it's not going to be you and I'm gone, who's taking that shot? I'm taking that shot. Kelly's taking that shot. If you put me on the block, you're dooming one of us to be evicted, and you're losing somebody who's willing to do that. And so on and so forth, right? Yeah. But she's genuinely just not hearing it. She's in her mind, again, like, this is, I really feel like Ashley's approach worked a lot better with Lauren. And that's not something that I think is normally the case. But Ashley being like, I know you want to keep me. versus Adrian being like, you have to, like, I know you want to put me up, but you have to not do that. Lauren's like, well, you already know then.
But it's interesting because like Ashley and Mickey and Morgan, their approach, it seems like they had good bedside manner with Lauren and they had like a good rapport with her. But I'm struggling to figure out what's going on in Lauren's head, in the sense that it does seem like she's kind of terrified of that side of the house. And part of Adrian and Keanu's argument is that they're using sort of coercion and threats. And I'm trying to like figure out how true that is in Lauren's head versus like just telling Adrian and Keanu that she's afraid of them.
It definitely, so like Mickey's first approach was definitely more threatening, I would say, where she was like, I mean, I won't have an issue with it, but I know a lot of people will have an issue with it if you put Will on the block. Right. But subsequent approaches had been a little more subtle, more so like, the carrot rather than the stick. Like, we will all be really happy with you if you put Adrian on the block. Jimmy's pitch being, we will all give you a deal for safety if you put Adrian on the block. And I think also that there was like, for as dangerous as Rachel's campaign of, hey, don't let Vince get in your head was for her because Vince might hear about it. I think that was also very effective for not only Vince, but Lauren herself, because Vince was so terrified when he heard it. I don't get why people are saying that I'm controlling your HOH. It doesn't even make any sense. And that's all he could talk to her about, and then basically abandoned her for the rest of the day because he was scared of being seen with her. I think in her mind too, it was like, well, I know that Vince likely prefers Ashley on the block. So maybe I need to like not do that so that we hide that relationship a little bit also. And so there are just a lot of different things sort of combining. I mean, the thing I will say is like, and this is why I really was like, I really feel like she's going to go with Ashley. These tactics don't work. It's very rare in Big Brother that the kinds of arguments and tactics used to sway Lauren this week actually function, actually succeed. And it's even more rare for a player to do the opposite of what their genuine final two, from their perspective at least, wants them to do, and make that decision without even consulting their genuine final two. Like, those things just don't happen. And this is a good example of like, they don't happen until they do. Right. But this is a pretty unique scenario.
I do think a certain tone has been set in this house, because part of their argument is, like a short-term deal until jury, and basically the hint of threatening her, which I think in a lot of different seasons would just fall on deaf ears and make people want to do the opposite. But this is like a house through 3 weeks where the people who are making waves are the people in very poor social standing, and all 3 HOHs are like defined by their sort of timidity. So I think it's really interesting about Big Brother, because it's like every season has its own culture, and I think that it's starting to be set here. Now, I would like them to change in the next week or two, but it is interesting to track.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. Vince being the first HOH, we talk about the first HOH often setting the tone, maybe the second HOH trying to depart from that if it's a particularly dangerous tone. But Vince having that very timid first HOH followed up by Jimmy's very timid second HOH, I think did make it even harder for Lauren to finally be the first person to like strike, which it kind of shouldn't be, because in many ways what that means is that they've left the game board open for you to take control. But at the same time, it's like, well, why didn't they? Am I missing something?
Right. Right. Yeah. No, it's funny because like we're tracking the discussion of like, is it good to win the first HOH? I've been a proponent that it is, because as long as you have a good, tidy but assertive HOH, you can build something around that. I think the rule is like, you really want to have the first good HOH. Like, that's just like the new rule. So like, and I don't think that's happened yet, because I think if someone comes in, the right person comes in and really sort of asserts their input on the game, like that could really finally create the structure that that I find to be lacking, because it's like I'm having fun tracking this, but I think there's a happy medium where I like there to be at least some structure, at least some named alliances that we can follow.
Yeah, when it looked like we were about to see it, but then we'll get there. Mickey comes in after Adrian. She goes in there. She doesn't even need to pitch much at this point. She's just there for like emotional support, stability, trying to make sure that that Lauren feels good about essentially rejecting Adrian in that conversation. She does tell Adrian, "I'm still not sure." Mickey prays with her. Keanu also tried to sort of like pray with her. He was quoting scripture to her. Definitely a different approach, though, I would say, with Mickey. And finally, Zach comes in and he's like, all right. Because in his mind, it's like, again, the last time he talked to Lauren, and she mentioned any preference, it was Ashley. And then she was, at the end of the day, she was like, I'm not sure. And I think he, like me, was like, okay, she's just kind of waffling a little bit, but obviously she's still set on her initial idea. She wouldn't change her mind without talking to me or Vince.
Yeah. I think he was feeling good this morning, but then Ashley came down and seemed really confident and really happy and buzzing about her conversation to HOH. And I think that set up alarms for Zach, and that made him really kind of run upstairs.
Exactly. And it's just like, maybe you could have been up there.
I know.
Earlier before that. But so he goes up there and he's like, so how you feeling? And she says, not good. He's like, oh, really? Because I feel like I'm seeing Ashley looking kind of happy. So I was just wondering, like, what's going on? She's like, I just don't know, Zach. I don't know. I feel like, is it a wrong move to I feel like there are so many people that will not be happy with me if I put Ashley on the block. And then also, like, Keanu is up here and I feel like he's wants to do this whole thing. And I just feel like people are gonna lump me in with him. They're gonna associate me with Keanu if I put Ashley up on the block now. And Zach is like, oh, Keanu's always screwing things up. Oh man. I mean, okay, well, she's like, and now they're calling me to the diary room. I think I have to go. And he's like, hold on. Let me go get Vince. Let me go get Vince.
This guy will fix everything. Yeah, Vince is gonna help.
Yeah. He runs and gets Vince, and they're like, so what's going on, Lauren? And she's like, I don't know. I just feel like, Keanu made me feel uncomfortable with the whole thing. And they're like, oh, but Keanu doesn't have to do that. It's not just about Keanu, right? Like we can just tell Keanu to back off. You don't have to. You're not going to be lumped in with Keanu. It doesn't have to be what's happening. She's like, I don't know. She said, I don't just guys, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. And they're like, I mean, Zach is like, I mean, if it were me, I would probably do Ashley, but and Vince is like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's maybe you could maybe do like. I mean, I think you could do Ashley. You could. She's like, guys, I just don't know.
This is frustrating because we've been talking about this all week, but this is just the perfect time to just nudge just a little bit. Just a little bit. We've got such a long way. It's happening right now.
It's Lauren. I get it. It's hard. But here's the thing. I really feel like we have to do Ashley. I really feel like we do. If we don't, we are risking losing a number for us. We will have your back. We promise. We will make sure Keanu has nothing to do with this. He's going to remain a target in front of us anyway. He can be as Keanu-y as he wants. We will have your back. We will support your decision. We will stand up and say, we supported this. It will not be all on you. It will be us. Keanu will have his own target. It's going to be a whole thing. Don't worry. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to stand up and support Lauren, which is part of the problem.
She's begging them to do it. She just opened the door for them. But I think what's going on in Vince's mind, and Vince, I have some opinions about Vince. I don't know. I feel like, for better or for worse, I do feel like he's been the player to watch this season just because of how interesting he is and his unique set of strengths and weaknesses, I do think that his ability to, like people have said, like mirror and be very sociable all around the house, like is such a strength. I mean, like he's the type of player where like he's all over the feeds, even though he's not like being boisterous or anything. Like he's just the king of one-on-one conversation. So, I mean, that should by itself make him a really, really strong player. I think maybe what's going wrong for him is I think he's coming in with a set strategy, which is interesting. I think we're talking about him at a pretty low point, but I think that I think he's almost wants to forego the weekly muckety muck of like who's actually going up and who's going out, because it just seems like he's able to like enthusiastically roll with whatever decision that people are making. I think he's really prioritizing just keeping the friendships and relationships intact and not getting clocked. And so I think that's, you could tell when he gets stressed out. He doesn't, I don't, from my perspective, doesn't get stressed out when an ally goes up on the block or something happens that he didn't expect. He gets really stressed out when he hears that someone is on to his game. And so I think that's where his head is at. And it's obviously leading to a much weaker position than he could be in. But in terms of his abilities as a player, I really want to see what happens when he's not feeling so good and he's put on the block, and see if like he can change a new gear. But that's my take on how he's played up to this point. And this is a good example.
Yeah, I think that's definitely right. I think that like it's like he's, I don't know how intentional it is, but it's like he's playing purely socially with zero strategic sort of motion. And the idea is, yeah, no matter what happens, I'll just move over here.
Right.
And if I lose a person over here, I'll just move back over here. And so it doesn't matter what happens strategically because I have the relationships to move wherever I want. The problem is he doesn't have as much mobility as you would want if you were going to try something like that. And you can sort of see this too. Later in the day, he's talking about Rachel, and he's just like, I don't know how to talk to her. I don't know how to get her to like me. And I don't get it. And it's like, yeah, just sometimes there's going to be people that like you just aren't able to know, you know? And those are the people that you need to strategically remove from the game so that you only have the people that you can convince.
He's done very well. He's done like 15 out of 16 in terms of people who are on his side, but then you know, the savviest player arguably is the one who's not. And I mean, that's causing a ton of long-term trouble for him.
Yes, exactly. So the feeds go down in the middle of the Lauren, Zach, Vince conversation because she's being called to the diary room for the veto ceremony. And when the feeds come back up, Adrian has been nominated as the replacement nominee. What a world we live in.
It actually happened. It was really interesting to watch this. I feel like I think it really was close. And you can like correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like Lauren was like really, really struggling with this decision. I mean, that was clear, but was it the case truly that Keanu really sabotaged this? Like, it does seem like kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, but it could just as easily be kind of just an excuse that Lauren's like attaching onto. So
right.
I'm curious.
I mean, I think that looking back on it, given that she made this decision, I do think because again, part of the reason I felt like she was going to go with Ashley anyway was that she hadn't circled back to Vince and Zach in a meaningful way yet, and that the momentum that the other players had pushing on her all day would be a little bit reset by sleeping on it, waking up in the morning, talking to Vince and Zach. It didn't happen that way. They continued the momentum. Vince and Zach didn't check in with her until 5 minutes before she went into the diary room to make the decision. And so looking back on that, like, I do think that Keanu pitching this idea was definitely a turning point. I think that, and I mentioned this yesterday, I think that Jimmy offering safety, a deal of safety with all of these like 4 or 5 people, that seemed to be a turning point. And we see both of those things. We saw Lauren asking Ashley for the promise of that safety. And we saw her saying to Vince and Zach, the Keanu thing really has me messed up. I don't think she has a lot of reason to lie to Vince or Zach about this. I don't think that she's like, I think that she was very genuinely struggling, and I think that she was genuinely telling them her biggest concern. And I think in her mind, it was the Keanu thing. What she might not say is, I made a deal for my own safety, although she did tell them that earlier, or has talked about that. So, but I think in my eyes, it's probably those two things were the primary things, on top of all of the other social pressures and more subtle things that I think contributed.
Good old Keanu helping get Adrian on the block. You love to see it.
Yeah, Adrian on the block, and let me tell you, he knows. They all kind of know, because it spreads around. Keanu's at fault. That she said I was upset about the Keanu offer, and so the guys are pissed. They are upset. They are frustrated. Riley is like, can't believe that happened. And Keanu's like, wow, I thought she was with us, but I guess she was Switzerland all along. And Adrian is like, yeah, I'm disappointed. And Vince looks like he's been hit by a hurricane, and Zach is moping around the house like, oh man. Meanwhile, the women are like hanging out, having lunch together, like they're on cloud nine.
Mickey's like, they wanted Ashley out, not today. Beep. That was a good one.
Yeah, exactly. So most of the guys are like, oh, Keanu, he even when he's trying to help, he makes things worse. And Adrian later in the day genuinely goes up to Keanu and says, can you please not campaign for me?
Keanu does.
I think it would be better if you didn't. And he's right. I mean, he's right. He's not wrong.
He's not wrong, but does Keanu listen to him now?
No, he doesn't. No, of course not. Of course not. So there's some other fallout from this. Immediately now, with Adrian on the block, there are, of course, a few different scenarios for what the final options for eviction will be. There's Adrian versus Kelly, but most people are not really anticipating that that's going to happen, because that would require Will to beat both Adrian and Kelly in the blockbuster competition. It's annoying that that is probably true, but there's still a chance that it could happen. And in the event that it's Kelly versus Adrian, it seems very likely right now that Kelly would be evicted. Then there's the world where one of Kelly or Adrian wins the blockbuster, and it's one of Adrian or Kelly against Will. And in an ideal world for Lauren, Will would leave in that spot, because she doesn't want Adrian or Kelly, two of the people she nominated, to go home this week. They are both allies for her, people who would be willing to win competitions and take shots that she is unwilling to take herself. So in her mind, it would be great if Will left, especially because in her mind also, she's, ruined the relationship with Will. He was so mad at her for nominating him. But here's the problem. Getting Will out is possible.
Right, yeah.
But it requires Lauren to stand up and break a tie.
This is why I'm excited for the rest of this week. I think this sets up a very interesting Thursday, because I do think Adrian or Kelly will go on to win Battle of the Block. And I think it's very plausible they can get to 6 votes, in which case Lauren is going to have to stand up, which sounds like her very worst nightmare, and make a decision that's going to cause waves. So we'll see how this develops throughout the day and the rest of the week. But I do find that to be something that is very much in the realm of possibility.
Yeah. So let's just we'll show you the votes here. Catherine, Keanu, one of Adrian or Kelly, whichever one comes off the block. Riley, Vince, and Zach make 6 votes. There are 12 total. With those 6 votes, they could evict Will. Lauren could break the tie and have Will leave the game. Now, the silly part about that is that if Lauren and Zach and Vince were all willing to make such a demonstrable act in a way that divides the house, to say we are declaring war, we are going against the other side of the house, she should have just put up Ashley so that while declaring war, they took out one of the stronger soldiers on the other side, somebody who's already won a competition, instead of declaring war for the sake of evicting Will, which feels like a considerably worse shot to take, as your opening gambit.
That would require the HOH this season to set up noms in a coordinated way to get out their preferred target without risk. So I think it's a little bit too much to ask. BB27.
Right. And it's like, maybe if you had nominated Ashley to begin with as a pawn before it looked worse, then she would already be on the block. And then you could set up the eviction vote so that she was evicted regardless of what happened. And then you'd be declaring war at that time instead of at this time, because you would guarantee that it would be Ashley that you were taking the shot at and not. Anyway, so that is all feasible. And it's theoretically what Lauren would like. But the realistic chances of it happening are fairly low. Lauren does not want to break a tie. And so in her mind, in the minds of Zach and Vince, they need a 7th vote in order to make sure that Will leaves. And that's going to be difficult because on the other side, you have some fairly locked in votes. You have Ashley, Ava, Jimmy, Mickey, Morgan, and Rachel. And where do you find a 7th vote to evict Will? Maybe you can pull Morgan if Zach tries hard enough. It's like that's probably your best bet, but it's a tough one. It's going to be difficult to find a 7th vote. And Keanu already thinks, oh, obviously I can just pull Rachel.
He solved it. And Jimmy for good measure. Yeah, of course. And that's something he's ranting about all day. So I mean, yeah, if it's up to Keanu, I think they've got 7 or 8 votes locked in for Thursday.
So while this was an initial thought to make happen, it is not something that they made any significant progress on yesterday. There weren't many conversations progressing in that direction outside of Keanu's attempts, which are not going to happen. So stay tuned on that. There may be more push for Will to leave later, but for now, it's not a very active plan. It's not one that seems super likely at the moment. In addition to all of this, Ava, who was once the champion of the Bond Alliance, the person pushing it the most, has officially declared it dead to Zach and Vince. The bond is broken, and it is no longer an alliance. There were some talks of revitalizing it with some different players, as well as some talks about revitalizing the heavy hitters with some slight changes, meaning like including Mickey into it. But take all alliance talk with a grain of salt with these people, because they are just as sort of like lazy about creating an actual alliance as like the players last season were. Like they talk about it. Nobody ever locks an alliance in.
And, if you're a Bond HOH and you're putting up 2 Bond members on the block, so it doesn't speak very highly about the longevity of the alliance. And that's something that Ava's, obviously able to clock. I think she's doing a good job being sort of like floating across all sides as we see her floating about on the feeds. But still, so that there it is, another named alliance that's really not to be. I think the heavy hitters doesn't really have legs either. So we're still waiting for that.
Mm-hmm. So Keanu does get wind of the fact that he's being kind of blamed for this nomination. He's sort of being told that that you were kind of too aggressive. You were maybe bullying a little bit, Lawrence. He has to go and talk to Lauren and be like, "You didn't think I was bullying. I've heard that you thought I was bullying you." And they have to have a very awkward conversation. She's like, no, that's not what I don't think you were bullying. I just didn't like the plan. It wasn't nothing like that. Nothing like that. And so on and so forth. It's awkward.
But he has taken the blame for the nominations. I thought that was his plan, but not
ultimately, Keanu has in fact taken the blame for the Adrian nomination, just as he planned to take the blame for the Ashley nomination. Adrian, for his part, is saying while he is disappointed with Lauren, he still does not plan to target her. He is fully on board with still taking a shot at the other side, the people that he deems to be, the liars, and that would be at this point like Mickey and Morgan and Rachel and all of them, and this is really Mickey's biggest blind spot, is she does not see Adrian coming. Morgan does talk to Mickey about her conversation with Zach the night before. Zach told Morgan about Adrian ratting Mickey out, but Morgan did not give Mickey a heads up specifically about Adrian. She just talked to Mickey about how Zach was suspecting that she had the power, and really sort of like rose-colored glasses was sort of the whole conversation. We're like, hey, Zach, he kind of thought maybe you had the power, but he said he doesn't even care. Like, we had a whole conversation about like, oh, it's actually good if she has it. We don't care if she doesn't tell us. And that is not how the conversation went. But Morgan continues to be an advocate for both Zach and Vince. And so she's trying to give Mickey a heads up while not damaging the relationship between Mickey, Zach, and Vince. But that's going to be pretty tough because both sides are pretty anti each other at this point.
And the tough thing about Mickey's situation with her power is that I just don't think people know the exact nature of the power, right? And so people don't know that it's basically rendered useless. Whereas I think Adrian would be looking to put her on the block just to flush a power that could save her if she were on the block. But that could just it's kind of putting a bigger target on her back. She had a great day, but yeah, she does have a blind spot when it comes to Adrian, who's like been saying her name a lot.
Mm-hmm. But for Adrian's part, he is looking in that direction. He also says that he is no longer looking at Keanu as a target. He's finally kind of realized that despite the fact that Keanu is a liar and he hates liars, he's got some bigger liars to deal with first. And so Keanu's coming off of Adrian's radar, which really shouldn't have been on his radar in the first place. He barely has any allies as it is. I don't know why he would target one of them. But that's happening. We talked about this already a little bit. Keanu does talk to Rachel. He is looking for her vote, potentially, looking to continue to solidify their budding relationship. It is important to note that Keanu sees Rachel as a floater. He says, ironic, isn't it? Now she's a floater. Her mind can't even handle it. Her read on the house is so wrong, it's hilarious. And in his mind, he is essentially like the Derek Levasseur to her Victoria. That he is like, she's trying to give me information like she knows what's happening. It's so funny. And so she's saying things like, hey, Vince is running the house. You can't trust Vince. And then he's going to Vince and telling Vince, Rachel thinks you're like a mastermind in running the house. It's so hilarious. Like, maybe I'm the biggest idiot in the world, but obviously that's not what's happening. Her reads are so bad. And Vince is like, oh, yeah, so bad. Wow. How do I talk to Rachel? and Keanu's giving him advice on like, here's how you need to talk to Rachel. Okay, I have figured this out.
Keanu proceeds to tell Vince how to talk to someone socially in the house. That was like a particularly good moment. But I mean, I can't believe how far we've come, like in Big Brother lore, where Rachel is being called a floater now. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. Because Rachel is the really the like sort of coiner of the modern definition of the floater, which can I actually take this moment, sorry to have a hot take about the term floater. So I have a linguistics background, right? So I know it's the number one super fan question. It's like, what is your definition of a floater? And I have all respect to Allison Irwin and June Song, Andy Aaron, love their games, but I do think from a linguistic standpoint, I think it's kind of time to maybe stop gatekeeping the term floater, because I think we're Rachel Riley back in, what was it, 2012, right? So like words change meaning over time, and was it 2010, something like that?
2011.
But, there you go. That's the one.
Actually, it might have been 2010 because of BB9. There's the shift from 1 year before to 2 years before.
I would say 2010 because that was the first RHAP season, and then they did Heroes vs. Villains. But don't take my word for it.
Yeah, 2010.
But I think a given Big Brother house, they're not packed with super fans who are on Twitter. I think they all use the term floater in a way that they can mutually understand. And my hot take is I understand the difference between the types of floaters that the super fans say versus the casuals, but I think you're going to run out of energy trying to be prescriptive about the term floater, where I think to the mass audience is kind of sort of changed meaning in a way that's useful for them to use. So that's my hot take.
I mean, to be fair, when doing my research on like when floater originally was coined, I did see some usages in Big Brother 3 that were more along the lines of the Rachel Riley version of floater. Then in Big Brother 4, they essentially took a different path with it. Not that it was an existing term to them, but they decided to come up with floater as their definition for what they were doing, and basically just like trying to force that definition ever since. And the thing is, it is now in the lexicon. You can't ignore that June was a floater, that Andy is the rat floater king. But I think it is reasonable that it confuses people.
At the same time, you can't ignore Rachel's Floaters Grab a Life Vest. She's not talking about June Song necessarily, right? She's talking about.
I mean, that is true. Rachel is now on the show saying she knows the difference. She's trying to correct history.
Because people probably yelled at her for a decade. But it's tough to deal with that sort of semantic sort of ambiguity, the tension there. But I will say, like, a lot of the super fans want it to be floater is the intentional Andy Heron, and coaster is like someone who's not doing anything. But listen, I don't really hear people saying coaster. I think that's it's like fetch. It's like it's not going to happen. And so that's how language works. Unfortunately, there's like a little bit of tension there, but I would not get on people's butts for saying floater.
Listen. It's I think this is very simple. It's just like saying pie for pizza.
Oh God, exactly. Exactly.
Sometimes you say pie and you mean pizza, and sometimes you say pie and you need pie. You mean pie. It's the same thing with floater. Sometimes you say floater and you mean June Song. Sometimes you say floater and you mean, I don't know, someone who's a floater.
You have to have the linguistic context has to be accounted for, and then you have to do some work to figure out what people are saying, unfortunately. But that's let me get off my soapbox there. But I think probably a hot take among super fans, but I think it's time we stop trying to gatekeep it.
All right. Well, so that's what's happening with Rachel, Vince, and Keanu. What's funny was that it's so Keanu. So Keanu has the conversation with Rachel. Rachel has a conversation with Vince, and Vince is asking Rachel about like, hey, I heard you and Keanu are like getting along all of a sudden. And then Rachel talks to Keanu again afterward, and it's like, yeah, Vince is saying that, I'm like that we're getting close again. And then Keanu later is like, I like Vinny, but man, he can be really bad at the game sometimes. Like, I'm trying to make this like secret thing with Rachel and act like it's a secret. And then Vinny goes and talks to her about like, why are you getting close with Keanu? Like, dude, we're trying to keep it secret. You're gonna let her know that we're talking. And it's like, no, Keanu, you should know that they are the ones talking about you based on this information. That is what you should be taking away. You should not constantly be assuming that other people are worse and more stupid than you.
Here's my question now. How long is Keanu going to last in this game? Like, because I don't think he's ever gonna change up his strategy, even though he thinks he is kind of like adapting, but like he's just gonna be this way. Like, is he gonna make the final two? I'm sort of morbidly interested in seeing.
According to Keanu, he's never going to lose a competition as long as they're skill based. So I guess he'll stay in the game until there's a crapshoot competition. Week.
Okay. All right. Well, and I guess like, well, I don't know who's going home this week. Will has maybe a small chance to go home this week. I do find it interesting. And I love Will. I think Will's great. I think he's got a really great, he's very endearing, but I do find it interesting if he does go, that it's kind of the people who are a little bit disengaged are the ones who may be leaving pre-jury. I don't think that's particularly common. I think it's people who are Keanu and Kelly who are kind of on the messy side and are the kind of pariahs who go early. I just think it's kind of interesting. And I think this house is really unique in a lot of ways. And yeah, we'll see how it shakes out though.
All right. Well, that's all happening there. One thing worth noting, Adrian has a conversation with Kelly, has many conversations with Kelly. But he does kind of let her know that Ava is actually not her biggest fan. Adrian sort of pulling further into the Kelly Keanu group at this point and spilling more and more information to that side. Again, there were plenty of conversations about new alliances being formed and everything like that. But honestly, for them, and Ava has a conversation with Lauren. Lauren's like, "Can we still make the Bond girls happen, even though the Bond isn't a thing?" And Ava was like, "Of course." They had a sleepover last night, so they were talking late into the night, and so. That's really like there's nothing too, I would say, significant happening elsewhere in the night. But yeah, there's I would say we have to wait for the next. They'll probably campaign a bit today, but honestly, they might wait until Wednesday to go full force for Will. Right now, it's a lot of like, oh, we wanted Adrian on the block always. And, obviously Kelly's leaving if she doesn't win the blockbuster. And obviously Will is staying, but secretly being like, oh, is there a chance we can get Will to stay? And so, yeah, we'll see.
So, I mean, my question is, Vince and Zach, again, they don't have the track record for this, but like, I'm wondering how much they could potentially push for this, for Will to go. I think there's tension because they have connections of people who are definitely not going to vote for Will to be evicted. But I think there's still room to play here, and people have been passive and timid and not wanting to push the agenda. But there could be a very interesting vote coming up that, I mean, I'm just really hoping it kind of draws some type of line in the sand. But I think it does depend on Vince and Zach having some sort of development on how they want to play the game.
Well, I mean, it's the thing where it's like they're very hesitant to make a move in this direction, but it's not like that hesitancy is granting them any favors. Like Rachel is already talking about like, wow, they're going to try and flip this vote. So we need to be prepared for it. And so I did see somebody in the chat mention that they really enjoyed the Ava Vince conversation last night where she was basically asking like, what are your thoughts on the vote? And he was like, well, I want to see what like Zach thinks and what Morgan thinks and what Lauren thinks and what like whoever thinks. She's like, politician answer. Come on, tell me what you actually think, Vinny. And he was like, oh no, it's just, I just feel like, and she's like, oh.
Vince, Keanu, Ashley, I just feel like they're kind of sitcom characters or something. Like they're always, no matter what situation they're in, they always stay true to their like core personality, and that's like such a classic Vince moment. You can't give a straight answer no matter what you ask him. It's funny.
Yeah, and I think this is part of it too. Like all of a sudden, Vince is like floundering when talking with Ava, and that's partly because Ava's, I think, more suspicious of him, but also he knows that Ava's more suspicious of him, and I think that gets in his head. And so like he's trying to talk to Ava because he now knows that Ava's, because of her conversation with Lauren, he's like, I need to work on Ava, but it's not working. It's like once the film has gone away from the eyes, like Vince's like one-on-one prowess seems to evaporate, except for Keanu, because he just has a permanent film on his eyes. So that's really most of what I have from yesterday. I think most of the important stuff came from the nominations themselves. I think that the rest of this will develop over the course of the next few days. Anything else you wanted to bring up, though, Andy?
I mean, I've been enjoying this week from a viewer standpoint. I was like kind of happy from that standpoint that Adrian went up, but I will say that I used to be so good at the stock watch, Taran. You can go on the all-time leaderboard. Baby Andy, it's up there. It's up there. But I am on a bad streak. I had Adrian stock. I just went for it and did not pay off. He won the blockbuster instead, but I did not pay dividends for that one.
Yeah, that's rough. That's a rough one.
Not a good buy.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you then today. Of course, if you haven't already, check out my book, Behind the Mirror. You can find it at taranarmstrong.com. You can pre-order it there. And have a good time with it. You can also find me on YouTube and Twitch. I will, of course, be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 27 live feeds. And we also have some other podcasts you should check out, like the Stock Watch, as mentioned by Andy last night. We went over the players, we rated them, we talked about all of the things going on. Maggie had thoughts, so that was very fun. Check out the Slop tonight. If you're a patron, Quinn will be there talking with Chappelle, going over all of the sloppiest details of the season. And speaking of Maggie, she made a little video. Being a Big Brother fan is embarrassing, and ranted about that for a little while. If you want to check that out over on the YouTube channel, and of course check out the Chat BCC drama that's always going on over there. All right, Andy, what are you up to?
Well, speaking of the book recommendation, I'm way ahead of you. I pre-ordered a signed copy of Behind the Mirror. That has happened. Whenever Taran recommends a book to me, I buy it. That includes the Farseer trilogy, which I still own. Have I read it? Maybe I've read them. I do own them based purely off of Taran's recommendation. This was years ago before I was on Survivor. So yeah, but I am excited to get my signed copy of Behind the Mirror. Taran is the preeminent world expert on Big Brother US. And so I'm really excited to see what he has in store for us.
All right. Well, thank you, Andy, and thank you, everyone watching and listening to the podcast. That's it. That's what we got. Thanks you for joining. I will see all of you next time.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.